Hi, Amit. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
My pleasure, Ashu. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Amit, 2020 has been an unreal year, right? And largely for the experiential industry, which was traditionally also the event industry. It's kind of come to a halt, right? If not a halt, there is limited stuff action on the ground which is happening, right? So the
Absolutely.
possibility that the brands had to really go out and engage with customers, right, and also generate a measurable ROI, which is so difficult in a offline setting. Experiential is something which has not really happened for a lot of brands in last almost a year and a half, right? In 2021
Yeah.
now, a completely different phase of COVID, and all of us hope that it continues to sort of people continue to remain safe and it ends as quickly as possible, right? It's been an unreal year, right? But before we dive into it, you're somebody who spent a lot of time in the industry, right?
Yeah.
So would love to hear about your journey and then come on to the topic of discussion today, right? And discuss it
Sure.
today. So
Sure.
tell us more about your journey, Amit. I mean, you've been an old hand in the experiential events industry, right? So just take us to
Yeah. I hope the old hand is not visibly an old hand, right? But yeah, I've been around in the industry almost for about 12 years now.
there.
My organization's called Wood Factor, and we've been in this space. We've grown through our personal experiences, right? I'm actually a very simple commerce graduate who got into technology very, very early in a nascent stage back in 99 or something like that, so 99. And 11 years gave my life to recruitments and sales, predominantly with the IT industry. From there, jumped into starting up Wood Factor back in 2009, when times were not as bad as they are today, but economically, India wasn't doing too great back in 2009. So I, kind of jumped onto the entrepreneur boat during a time when it was testing times for India yet again. Uh, 2009 to today, 2021, a 12-year journey. I've learned a lot. We do a lot of work in the space of generating ROI through our experiences. What sets us, I would like to kind of, keep repeating that we don't do the most largest of stages or the best of sound or the best of lights. Technically, supporting an event is hygiene,
Right.
right? For us, uh, why an event has to be done, why the investment has to be made. Because let's look at it, a BTL event kind of competes directly hand in hand with your investment that you're making on an ATL side,
Correct.
right? Where you're signing up a celebrity, picking up media, going digital and stuff like that. So we have to make sense to the business, right? If you don't make, any ROI, whether it's a lead, whether it's engagement, whether it's entertainment, whether it's the wow factor, something has to be derived from every experience.
Right.
So what we started kind of doing, Ashu, this was about 4 5 years into our journey. We didn't start off with this model. We started
Right.
off doing a mall event, a society event, and I still would be very happy to do anything and everything till it makes logical sense,
Sure.
right? To the business, let me talk about. And about 7 years back, we kind of diverted ourselves to becoming very, very specific to a specific industry. So today, Wood Factor works only for three verticals, and they're not limited. But yes, these are my specialities. Which, if a business talks to me, I would understand their pain point, right? It's pretty much the entire BFSI, including the insurance, the financial
Sure.
services, the money transfer market, the credit cards, and all of that. The real estate market, we're pretty aggressive there, and we're slowly, diving into the pharma sector as well.
Right.
So those are sectors that we specialize in, and we kind of talk the business language, so we understand why even an R&R is supposed to happen.
Right.
Let's say there's a MICE event and 500 people are traveling. What is the efforts that they kind of put in because of which they're kind of getting the MICE event? It's good to
Sure.
glorify it, right? But it's interesting to have these conversations with the business. So that's kept us relevant across the last span of all the ups and downs that the industry has seen.
Sure.
But coming to your question, I believe 2020 and 2021 is a down like no other.
Right.
But it's an enriching time actually. When you're kind of pushed across to the wall,
Sure.
some people tend to jump off the window. Some people tend to just stay there and see, how much pressure they can take. And
Right.
then some, believe in fighting back and kind of adapting.
Sure.
So to me, it is a story of the experiential industry actually jumping and adapting. Right? Because it's really pushed us to the wall. People talk about travel and tourism taking a hit. People talk about the retail chains taking a hit. People talk
Sure.
about restaurant chains taking a hit.
Sure.
There are very few conversations that are actually happening around the experiential industry.
Right.
And maybe we want heroes at the end of the day. We want a necessity. So we want the essentials, if I may call it, for any business to start with. Right? Because businesses have still kept marketing themselves in certain manners. And if a lot of my industry compatriots and a lot of our peers actually start looking at ROI-based events, we will become mandatory. And the minute you become mandatory, then these downs will still keep you relevant. Right? But yes, there is a lot of innovation that's come across, Ashu. There's a lot of innovation that's come across in the last year and a half. And those have been, good challenges. My IT background has kind of helped us adapt to the virtual platforms, create a lot of virtual experiences. And today it's all about adaptability being the buzzword, but monotony at the same time is another challenge that's hitting us in 2021.
Very interesting, Amit. While I hear you, I sort of I understand. I think that a lot of what was happening, pre 2020, I think is going to get redefined, right? But before I jump onto that, right? And I highlighted in the early part of my question, right? 2020 has been an unreal year, right? It has disrupted a lot of what has happened on the ground. Experiential something, which was becoming so much more mandatory, right, for brands to get out there and and sort of build that association with the customer, right, and make them feel and try and then build on that entire the relationship that they've sort of set in that little time. Um, you know that has changed, right? Our conversations have moved digital, right? Uh, what happens to the experiential industry? I'm asking you a very macro question right now. We'll break it down in smaller questions as we go along, right? But what is your comment about it, right? So how has been 2020? I mean, are there some things that have happened? And I'm predominantly talking about brand and consumer experience, right? I'm talking about that, right? I mean, internal activities continue to happen, and people continue to keep their staff motivated and their teams motivated. But here it's more about the consumer because the top line is the most important, right? And experiential is something that directly has an impact on the top line, right? So how has 2020 been, right? What are some of the things that you think have happened in the macro setting and you think are going to continue to happen as we go along?
So to actually answer your question, well, you rightly said, the audiences kind of keeps changing. And when you talk about businesses targeting their customer, for some, they are the advisor channel, the DSA channel and stuff like that. So it's like channel marketing pretty much. And for some, it is the direct B2C. It's a direct customer reach that is required. So two things kind of coexisted and kind of, were at the top of every conversation that we've had with our brands that we service. One part was adapting to the digital form of engagement, right? And you would kind of tend to believe, oh, it's happening on Instagram, oh, it's happening on Facebook. But they started realizing there was no data being generated from these platforms, right? So if I did a conversation and it was just being thrown upon on YouTube or it was thrown upon on Facebook, there was very little data generation that you were getting qualified leads from. So what we started doing, and Boot Factor has a platform called View. A lot of my peers have their own platforms. A lot of new companies entered the experiential industry courtesy their streaming capabilities, their IT capabilities, pure play. And these became the talk of the town, especially if you look at the conversations from last year, May, till last year, November, right? September or October, let me put it that way. For that period of 6 months, and India did see a little surge in terms of comeback in that last quarter and the early first quarter, the early fourth quarter, let me put it that way. And these became these virtual events, as we call it, right? Or in Boot Factor's language, they were called either digital engagements or phygital engagements. So, the chroma screen shoots where, there is a speaker and he's been given a wonderful backdrop and that launches are happening. There were product launches where real estate launched the entire channel partner meet in a nice phygital format where, there were speakers and there was a mix of virtual and physical, no audience, but everything was being streamed live through a microsite. And that microsite was the data consumption and lead generation for every brand. You've done shows with multiple Bollywood artists, multiple nutritionists, tons of shows with doctors to kind of talk to people, keep them mentally, ahead of the situation, keep them motivated, manage anxiety levels and stuff like that.
Sure.
And all of them seem to be resurfacing now as we talk as well in 2021.
Right.
That virtual world kind of came into existence.
Sure.
And if I may, kind of put a hypothetical number to it, events industry and the experiential agencies, out of 10, about 30% adapted to it.
Okay.
70% waited and watched and said, you know what, this is a phase and it might not last that long.
Sure.
30% who could kind of keep up to pace adapted. But
Right.
let me tell you, these are just survival guidelines.
Sure.
Right? Because what you do in experiential, what you do in BTL, what you do with MICE is so much more. Right? What started happening, Ashu, with this kind of becoming repetitive,
Right.
say our X brand was kind of doing virtual events, they started seeing that what was a trend. Okay, I got 9,000 people to watch a certain show.
Sure.
Fantastic. But the 9,000 audience by the end of 45 minutes is sitting at 1,500, 2,000. So the
Right.
customer, attention span and the limited interaction mechanism, right, is what became the challenges of the virtual world. So those have got addressed in certain manners where today interactive platforms through chat, expressions, sharing, all of that is there. But it's still not, like you and me are talking today. Right. So that makes a lot of difference. You want to see the customer when you throw something at the customer, and you want to see that delight in the eye, or you want to see the grin, or you want to see the question mark. So that was missing in the virtual world.
Interesting.
BTL, in certain sense, last year did make a smaller comeback, Ashu, and here a lot of targeted, BTL platforms have kind of opened up options to brands.
Mm-hmm.
Brands who never looked at RWA marketing. They said, you know what, going to a society and showcasing my brand, no. I think we need to look at a more massier platform.
Sure.
Are today saying, you know what, let's break it down. It is okay if I have pedal sanitizers installed in 2,000 societies.
Very interesting.
Right? It is okay if I do a virtual event, but I actually market it to a target market. Like we've literally done this for a lot of health insurance and a lot of term insurance companies,
Right.
where we go to a certain city, we tie up with 20 societies, but we do one virtual event saying it's for your city, yours specifically. So today, if you are a lead generated in Ahmedabad, at least it's quantifiable.
Right.
And I'm not going and doing it for pan India and then saying, you know what, Are baap re, ye kahan se aaya tha? So brands have kind of got, learned with time. Us as experiential agencies have tried to adapt with time.
Very
And today, very, very strategic BTL. Like we've done, we did a very, humongous 47 city road safety week for an upcoming small finance bank. And it was a 1 week long project done across petrol pumps, done across signals, because that was the time India was just coming out of the lockdown.
Sure.
Right. And these became the avenues. I'm not saying it is, you're back to old days. You're nowhere close to back to old days. But these are guidelines to keep your business relevant, to keep your brand as a brand manager, to keep yourself relevant in these times that, you know what, I'm doing something for the society.
Sure.
I'm still doing something good. I'm here for you. We are here to care for you. And these all factors kind of matter. Right. So these factors is what has happened in 2020. Some of it will happen in 2021. Some of it, right? And as life goes along, we are in a world where the brand now has a choice. Do I go out and spend everything with a big launch event?
Sure.
Do I kind of save something, do a more strategic BTL? These were choices which were there existing always.
Sure.
What gets added to it is, okay, digitally, what do I do for acquisition?
Right.
Virtually, what do I do for engagement? So the buckets, like I said, there was a term I was talking to someone and I said, there are more tabs now in your menu. There are more tabs available. And it's going to make marketing that much more challenging.
Right.
From my perspective as an entrepreneur, I'm damn excited about it. Right? You might be talking to me at a time when we are literally down.
Sure.
Right? We are 20% of what we used to be in our glory days.
Right.
But the fun is, there is going to be an end to it. Science is going to win someday. right? It might be 2021. I'm hoping it's next quarter, this
Right.
quarter.
Right.
It may be 2022, right? But if you are staying afloat right now, there is a boat that comes that saves you. And when you hit the shore, you will party if you have your right gear with you, right?
I sincerely hope we get to that shore as quickly, Amit. But what has happened is a lot of brands, they've moved, like you said, right, virtually, in a virtual setting, right, or acquisition has become digital, right. And with what has happened, I think the consumer is also getting set in certain ways, right.
Right.
I think there's a certain sense of homogeneity which is coming across the market, right. Earlier, we used to have across Europe, we used to have those factors of regionality, and how we
Right.
consumed, and there was so much more, bifurcation of those regions, and our preference, and so much, so on and so forth, right. But today, given that all of us are essentially consuming from the same platform, right, which is say OTT, and we are watching in a digital setting and stuff like that, right?
Correct.
There is one, our preference is getting defined. Second, our footprint is getting deeper, right? Which essentially means that digital is here to stay, right? Brands
Correct.
will acquire their customers in a digital setting, right?
Absolutely.
And I think it's going to become all the more clearer, right? I think prioritization will happen at a different level, right? What is important to understand, Amit, which is also my next question, right? Do you think as this gets better from here, uh, experiential marketing, experiential activities will augment the digital existence of brands, right? Something that you highlighted, right? But I want to, do you think that this is something which is going to continue, and experiential is something which is going to make that bond thicker? Acquisition will largely move online, right? So,
Yeah.
what was happening in a setting where a lot of money was being spent on acquiring a client or a customer in a physical setting will move digitally, right?
Yeah.
But a large part of those retail budgets will also come into acquiring or sort of engaging a customer through experiential activities. What do you think about that?
So my cross question to you just once before I answer this,
Sure.
what's the horizon that you want me to answer this at? Because that is most key, right? Because human memory is very short, Ashu,
Right.
right?
Right.
So what's the horizon for me to answer this question?
Hmm. I'm asking your. I mean, it's how do you see it, right?
Okay,
And and
so
then you could like bifurcate it and say in a short term setting, saying that 6 to 8 months is this, and possibly say 2022 and financial year 22 and 23 is going to be something different, right? So I think you can give
sure.
it to me in that.
So rather than say, I wish I was a doctor or a scientist and knew when this was coming to an end.
Sure.
So I won't really quote a figure, but let me tell you, from the day that we find a cure that's more stable,
Right.
and vaccination seems to be doing its job currently, and I
Sure.
fingers crossed that the world recovers. But the minute the industry will only recover pretty much about 6 months after stability comes to the world,
Okay.
right? Experiential agencies, that's predominantly, right? Because people are still going to be iffy in investing in those platforms.
Mhm.
So the short-term horizon I would look at is about a year after stability to
Sure.
the market of experiential agencies.
Sure.
And that 1 year is going to be, like I said, there are more tabs in the menu for a marketing, a marketing lead.
Right.
And every brand, right, will have these options. These options have become, if it's a real estate sector, it's pharma, it's manufacturing, it's small businesses. Everybody now has these weaponry, and digitally, albeit, is so much more cost effective, right? You can define your target audience who wants to consume that data. You can kind of figure out whom you want to talk to and stuff like that. What they're consuming, how they are reacting are the challenges,
Right.
right? Where you kind of get stuck. So to answer your question, Ashu, in that short-term horizon of a year after stability, I truly believe every experiential agency needs to have all the 4 tabs.
Right.
Today, we might be doing the event for somebody, but somebody else might have been streaming the event.
Sure.
Tomorrow, now a brand can kind of comprehend having multiple agencies today.
Right.
Because let's believe it, even they have a little bit more time today in hand, courtesy the slowdown in every business. But when they come back to their offices, when they see the work coming back, the pressure of numbers, the pressure to get the business back, to get their customers back in, right, is going to be so humongous that he's going to look at one-stop shop for anything and everything that they do.
Sure.
Digitally, they will want somebody to make films for them and promote it, right? Experientially, they would want somebody to create an engagement and stream it, and do everything online with it. So the more start to end, the term which we
Got
keep
it.
using, end-to-end services, the more that you have within the experiential agency, that's going to be a survival guide within the first year of comeback.
Sure.
It's post that I believe that the market will start seeing pretty much the old normal. We keep saying the new normal, the new normal,
Right.
the new normal.
Right.
But you know what? You will eventually want the skin in the game. You would want to go down to the customer and talk to them. You would want to meet your advisors and actually pat them on the back
Right.
rather than just pat them on a screen for 3 seconds or 5 seconds
Sure.
and put their picture up for their families to see. But you know what? There is going to be coexistence, Ashu.
Right.
There are so many industries that are going to stay virtual even 5 years down the line from now.
Right.
Right? Because they are today disseminating information via events.
Sure.
They weren't entertaining via events. Right? They
Right.
merely were saying, you know what, here is the product. Here is how you, here are the USPs of the product, and this is how you sell it.
Right.
For this, I can do it virtually today at 10% of the cost that I did to book a hotel, provide them
Very
food,
interesting.
provide them liquor.
Right.
All of these sectors, and you need to understand, right? It's not okay to say, to generalize that this industry will stay virtual and this industry will go on ground.
Fair enough.
Every industry will have a different way. It's the mode of communication, the type of events, and the type of communication that event had.
Right.
Right. If it's a success, let's say somebody has done tremendously well in the auto loan industry,
Sure.
and that brand wants to celebrate, possibly will never happen virtually ever again. The minute the old normal is back.
Sure.
Right? They will want to come back. They would want to get that guy up on the stage, give him that 2 minutes of glory, to have a picture with his CEO, because that's a moment, you can't imagine you and me running a race here.
Totally.
Playing a game on a phone, and we're actually running a race in the heat.
Sure.
It's okay if you sweat, but you know what?
Right.
That's more successful.
Amit,
So that's
very interesting. I think very interesting point of view, right? But I'm going to go back again into the consumer side of things, right? For me, what is important to understand is how is the consumer play, how will that get designed, shaped, reshaped, readjusted to the new normal, old normal, all of that, right? My firm belief is, right, and across so many conversations that we've had, right, for brands it's becoming so much more easier, right, to understand a customer, right? Because there is there's an improved digital existence of the consumer, right? Today they're consuming a lot of content, so you understand, what is the kind of emotion that this person goes through. You have the basic demographic data anyway, right? And a lot of them are depending on now content to engage with the customer, right? So my sense is that the primary channel of acquisition will go on to be digital, right? And I think experiential is going to augment, that. And so I can have a preliminary understanding of the brand, and when I experience it in a mall, it just amplifies that entire perception that I had built in my mind. And my ability to purchase is going to be in my mind far superior. I would have convinced myself far better, rather than being in that zone of a tentative purchase, right? I think my sense is that I think experiential will really support digital, right? That's something that I'm observing across a lot of conversations that are happening. I mean, my next question is, right, given that everybody is going to be chasing the same customer, right? Now that the customer is, the customer a little better, how will experiential be experiential marketing be the differentiator between who gets the customer, who eventually bags that purchase? Do you think the relevance of experiential is going to increase in that last mile conversion?
I think it always has, if I'm not wrong, if I'm not quoting wrong here. But I think it always has, because everybody has been, has looked at ATL as a channel to kind of market, create brand awareness, and then do that little sampling for the customer on ground, or like you said, be in a mall and kind of do something in a 20 by 20 setup and
Right.
wow the customer, or come up with offers on point of sales and stuff like that. So this, I think it always has been an accelerator to kind of push that last mile purchase.
Right.
To me, I believe ATL is going to, so if you look at it, there were channels like ATL and BTL, and now there is digital sitting right in the center, right? And it eats from both pies.
Right.
It actually goes on to eat from both pies.
Very interesting.
And the role that experiential has will not really change, but become limited, because now that digitally you've kind of acquired a lot of leads, you've got a lot of database. So you're not just doing data generation, you now are doing the last mile conversion.
Right.
So as much as you were staying away from sales targets or saying, I don't want to kind of go out there and sell this product to the customer, a promoter is there to give you an experience or say, ma'am, ye wali sauce try kijiye, ye isse better.
Right.
So just for a crude example. Now he's going to say, ma'am, ye wali sauce try kijiye, is pe ye offer bhi hai.
Right.
This is available, so
or taste of preferences, right?
Absolutely, right. So earlier, a lot of market research also happened with BTL channels. Now the type of product, the type of customer will get kind of pretty defined with digital, and there will be a lot of push digitally. People will still do virtual events. People will still market themselves on, today it's Instagram, tomorrow it might be something else. WhatsApp is becoming much more matured when it comes to giving businesses a platform to reach out to customers. It's your new SMS, if I may call it that way. So that's going to become another huge channel in coming years. And like, look at us. We were marketing to a society, Ashu, till last year, two years back, putting posters and standees and doing a setup and putting an MC. It's all changed. We're only going and talking to the customer on his WhatsApp group in the society today.
Right.
We're only doing that. So I'm actually in every household.
Right.
And at, again, 1/10 of the cost.
Right.
So that's going to be the entire key. It is going to be interesting to see how budgets open up when the old normal comes back. And then a combination of all of this will kind of make the matrix. Some brands will believe more in the digital and less in experiential and make it a support mechanism. The others will make experiential the front and make digital the support mechanism.
Interesting.
But they are here to coexist. There is no two ways about it. Right? I don't have a choice to say that, there is no use of this being done digitally or acquire anybody. You don't know your customer. You don't know how he's reacting.
Right.
I can no more talk this language, which, probably was an argument earlier, to saying, do I do a big launch or do I just do a nice digital campaign with certain influencer-led marketing? Today, both will have to be kind of coexisting. And we've done a little bit of it so far. I think the learning curve is, of course, there, and that's the entire fun, right? You again go out there and you start from zero when, when new learnings are there. It's a new innings.
Right. Amit, what are some of the sectors that you think are going to pick up faster, in terms of their adoption of experiential? And how do you think the budget allocations are going to change?
So, like I said, actually, I wouldn't specify or call out a sector of an industry that's going to kind of, adapt to it more than the other.
Right.
Like I said, it's what's the consumption of the communication, right? If the consumption of the communication is B2C led to launch a product, it might be 90% digital. Right? Because it just gives you so much more reach. It's so much more cost effective, right? And then BTL or experiential will only be there to support.
Right.
But if it's an old product that people have heard of, and people, you want to, re-energize the market with your product or new positioning, at this stage, experiential will become equally dominant, as much as digital is. So that's one factor. And when you come to the channel marketing part of it, anything that is informative, that's educative, is going to be disseminated only virtually or digitally. I don't see a reason for you to book a hotel, to book a venue, get a speaker and all of that, because it happens at such a low cost, right? But the same thing, when you actually want to go out there and even gratify customers for, shopping in a mall, or you want to gratify customers for saying, my first 100 customers who bought a property at my XYZ launch, that will still happen in a live environment, because the wine, cheese, dine, that experience,
Right.
I'm sure you and I are dying to kind of meet each other and say cheers,
Right.
face to face, rather than
Yeah.
kind of have our own sip of, uh, alcohol sitting at our own house. So
Right.
that motivation is still going to come back.
Right.
It's just going to take time. I
Right.
think, everybody's going to have a lot of choices. So when I go to pitch today,
Sure.
or tomorrow, when there is a new pitch that comes in, I'm
Right.
actually going to comprehend, how much of experiential do I sell to him? How much of
Right.
virtual do I sell to him?
Right.
And how much of it do I say, you know what, let's just get 5 influencers and spread the message here. So it's going to be a combination. We have to question ourselves as an experiential agency so much more
Right.
than what we did before. Because earlier it was, oh, these are the channels, ये आपका customer है, इधर आपको customer मिलता है, चलिए ये 5 चीजें कर सकते हैं.
Right.
अब इसमें आप क्या innovate कर लोगे? And everybody had examples of Coca-Cola ने ये किया, Apple ने ये किया, let's do that.
Right.
And today also, Apple leads the way, by the way, in all virtual engagements.
Right.
Everybody wants to be an Apple without spending that much. But, so we've got new challenges in our industry. But
Right.
to answer your question, I don't think any specific sector will specifically adapt one and decline the other.
Sure.
Everybody will have to coexist with these 4 or 5 options.
Very interesting. Amit, we work very closely with a lot of startups, right? And I think startups have been raising a lot of capital. They are redefining, a lot of industries, right? Be it
Yeah.
healthcare, be it education, be it commerce, be it trade, be it investments. So they're pretty much they're disrupting everything and anything, right?
Yeah.
And these are businesses that are new age digital businesses, right? So these are businesses that are built on transition, right? And not a lot of these businesses have been doing a lot of experiential, right? I think the thought process is that acquire a customer in a digital setting. It's just so much more transparent, and you can calibrate it and so on and so forth, right? What do you think, and how do you think can experiential add value to their overall existence, right? How is it that experiential can help them improve their reputation, right? So for example, the Nestle's of the world have been there for 50 years. The likes like Maruti and Suzuki have been there for 30, 40 years, right? They've had a legacy, right? So the customer never had a problem, identifying his or her need and then purchasing it. And these brands stood through the time, so automatically there was a certain sense of confidence which was there, right? But for the newer brands, how is it that experiential can help them build that credibility faster, given that they already understand the digital ecosystem?
Absolutely. So number one, to completely agree with you, I think a lot of startups in India is in a boom when you look at it specifically over the last 3 to 5 years. I think programs like, be it Make It India, or I generally believe India is such a young country that innovation is kind of at the forefront. So give it whatever name, give it whatever campaign, eventually you can't curb the enthusiasm of the youth, right? That's really beautiful to see. To answer your question, like I started 2009 when the industry was facing an economic turmoil, and I had a good run for 2 years because my expectations were so low. I was taking baby steps, and I think that's the same format for any new startup in today's day and age. I believe this is a great time to start working on your skill set, start working on your product or your service, if you're online or you're a tangible product, right? And actually take baby steps and only stay practical with your goals. Don't overshoot. Everybody wants to be, the TikTok the minute they launch. Everybody wants to be the Twitter of the world. Everybody wants to be, there are so many other brands who've done humongously well when they immediately launched in the first year through funding and all of that. And you see them a lot more than probably the business that they're doing, right? I'm sure you and I have studied a lot of such businesses.
Right.
Coming to your question of their adaptability to experiential, look, I believe if your business is online, and there used to be this presentation we all used to make in the 90s and the 2000s, that my business is available in so many cities. I am present in so many states.
Right.
But today's businessman, or today's entrepreneur does not even consider that when he does anything digitally.
Right.
He's actually talking to you about a global outreach. He's saying, oh, every Indian can consume. Right? Or this industry across India can consume. So the boundaries have kind of got, blended when it comes to any digital business per se.
Right.
A technology business, an app, if I may say so. And I do think they will only use experiential, very, very limited in certain settings when they kind of believe they've associated with the right platform, whether it's an exhibition, whether it's platforms like IPL or ISL and stuff like that. And a lot of these businesses are actually jumping these bandwagons and getting visibility in the right forms. Right? They've become very intelligent. However, the tangible products are the ones who will actually have to adapt to a mix of both very quickly. And they will have to learn the ropes much faster than the online businesses or the digital businesses. Because eventually people have to have the touch and feel. I am selling Indian-made toys.
Right.
But you know what? Till the time the kid does not find it exciting, right? You can't just market it online because, what is the customer? Today, India's pyramid, you always said money lies in the bottom of the pyramid.
Right.
And that bottom of the pyramid still needs to, can't consume all the data digitally.
Correct.
Right? As much as you might want to, we are at least a decade away from that. At least a decade. Right? Of course, Jio, Paytm have led the way for digital payments. And I believe financial services have a gala time ahead of them because they have so many customers out there to acquire. And I think for them, digital online are the best modes to do. Like, let me share an example. We did something for one of the leading private sector banks last year in May 2020. And we helped them acquire over 45 lakh data in 21 days through a very, very simple art and craft engagement. And for kids, the simple insight was, you know what, kids are sitting at home from a month and a half and parents really don't know what to do with them.
Right.
Because they have to still take care of the house chores and stuff like that.
Right.
So that became the insight. It led to a platform being developed, which is completely online, consumed via a simple picture being submitted by the entrant.
Right.
And the reach was humongous. 47 lakhs data in 21 days, you wouldn't even get if you went down to the experiential.
Amit, that brings me to my next question, right? I think which is a very important point that you also highlighted, right? That experiential will help a lot of brands create very strong communities around themselves, right? And the way I look at it, I think every brand should try and sort of build a community because, that eventually becomes, that has, of course, a base effect that improves your base effect overall, right? And that also has a very significant, it plays like an insurance, right? Even if there's a bad day, right? A customer which is part of a community, even when you're not in a position to spend or you choose not to spend, right, will continue to come in and consume. Your overall customer acquisition cost is going to drop phenomenally, right?
Yes.
So, what are your thoughts about that, right? How can experiential help a lot of new age, businesses, online businesses, to build a very strong community which stands for that brand, which advocates that brand, which also builds and amplifies its reputation in a very organic manner.
Fair. So look, like I said, coexistence is going to be the name of the game, right? And your product's going to define how you get down to customer acquisitions. When it comes to online experiential events and acquisition-led platforms, you've again got multiple channels that a brand can look at. Today, in fact, there are brands who are not even signing up brand ambassadors because they say, you know what, I'd rather have a campaign ambassador who fits the communication at this time. Right. And this time, because of uncertain times, is becoming the name of the game. And I think that's here to stay for the next 2 to 3 years. Right. So what you do for that specific product, that specific service, whether you pick a face and you make him, today Jim Sarb is doing a fantastic job, and he's going to become reminiscent to one of the leading financial services, brand who's doing stuff online. It was a very, very intelligent way. If you go to see the ad, probably there's been so much debate online whether the ad makes sense. It still doesn't tell me what the product's doing. but the ad is absolutely caught your attention, then we're talking
Right.
about
Right.
right. That's majorly content-based marketing, and it's absolutely okay. You can't create an Amul and create communication
But
around it
how about
consistently for so many years.
But how about a brand like Royal Enfield, right? How about a brand like Xiaomi for that matter, right? I think
Yeah.
what MI has been able to do is absolutely phenomenal, right? Not a lot of other tech brands have been able to recreate that coherent community, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what are some of the steps that, for example, these early stage brands can have to build one a strong community, and second acquire a customer much faster and establish a very strong imprint on their minds
Yeah.
about their existence, right? So what are some of the steps that you think
Sure.
are that the
So,
brand.
so to answer this question, I'll actually break it down into a few very key words, right? The first and foremost is, as a new brand actually enters, are they open to listen,
Mhm.
right? I think we've become such an opinionated society today,
Right. Right.
right? Whether it comes to politics, cricket, brands, products, services, any and everything, right? You get out of an Ola and the first thing the driver says, "Sir, rating then."
Right.
He's basically asking you for your opinion.
Right.
Somebody dropped a parcel for me just an hour back and he said, "Sir, 5 stars de dijiyega."
Yeah.
Right? And imagine that's a guy who would probably not even, sorry to say, but I'm not willing to categorize, but probably is not in the best of education.
Right.
He's into delivery services today and he's doing the best he can, right?
Sure.
But he understands what an opinion is.
Right.
So brands need to start listening when they start,
Right.
right? Today, of course, rather than forcing a 5-star rating down your throat, actually listen.
Right.
Because it might just give you your solutions.
Right.
It can come from any angle. Second, my second suggestion to these brands is don't try and copy.
Right.
Because the online space and the digital space, right, there was one ice bucket challenge.
Right.
You try and do another ice bucket challenge, it's not going to work that well.
Right.
Right. And every brand you go to will take that example.
Right.
Right. And say, मुझे ना viral होना है.
Mhm.
मुझे viral होना है. अब
Right.
आपने उसकी you basically caught on to the success buzzword that what it achieved virality, but
Right.
you forgot that it had a uniqueness attached to it.
Sure.
And that uniqueness is what is that can drive your community. So today, if you look at it, Royal Enfield probably has the most powerful product.
Right.
Right. The sort of argument that you put forward, and Xiaomi as well has a fantastic product.
Right.
They have decent sales to talk about. But when it comes to community building or user-based building, right, they've tried to emulate people within their industry rather than actually tread a different part and experiment, listen to a customer and do something different.
Interesting.
Right? Today in real estate market also, if you go to see, Lodhas of the world have done phenomenally well. Right? You had so much of consumer bashing coming back to that brand as well. Yet the brand is number one today. Right? You are seeing a brand like Godrej Properties who's really competing with them, neck to neck in certain cities.
Right.
And they actually even still go ahead and they're flamboyant about their pricing because they're they're confident about the product. Right. So they're listening, they know their target audience, they're launching things which are the need of the hour to a specific community. Right. And they're feeling, there are some projects, of course, that are successful and, some that face challenges. And that's with every business, right? The adaptability factor still stays for the business. Mm-hmm. But I believe, I want to do something different. You need to back that with that level of investment, that level of study in it as well, right? Mm-hmm. If you're doing something in the online space that already has been done with an earlier brand within your same sector, there is no way you can make a fool out of the customer because you know what? There is, my phone is listening to me. He's throwing data to me the minute I'm asking, I'm talking to people around me. So I'm figuring out and I'm getting a lot of data. So I'm becoming knowledgeable. आजकल मेरे लिए जो पहले unique था वो आज unique नहीं रहा. So that is where the essence lies. Somehow, simplicity in execution is still according to me, the best way to go forward if you want to have a CAC which is extremely low, but you're happy with your target audience just learning about your product and acquiring a lot of data. There you need simplicity. Don't complicate.
I think Amit, what you highlight is the characteristic of a community. Is a characteristic of basically whatever you're planning and whatever you're conceiving, right? If we break it down in steps, and I'll throw it at you, right, and just make your comments, right? So the way I look at it structurally, okay. So when you are, for example, doing an experiential activity, how important is idea formation? Step number one.
When you're doing an experiential activity, I say that is where the seed is.
Right.
Else, I think you're lost. Right.
Okay. And idea formation. Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah. So to me, idea formation is the seed of the entire. Is how strong your roots are going to be.
Right.
So you need to understand the idea is for whom.
Right.
Right. You of course need to understand yourself the best.
Correct.
Right. By whom? Like
right.
You need to know your product. You can't have a gray area there. You can't be not convinced.
right.
You need to know what I'm taking to the customer at this point of time is
right.
relevant.
Sure.
Right. Anything that you're doing in today's day and age, and specifically for the next year or 2 years up, that are coming ahead of us,
right.
you have to have a relevant product or service.
Sure.
Right. If you have anything that is good to have, you might not be doing it at the right time. So your
right.
ideation requires to be backed by the right time, relevancy, and
sure.
then you need to really buckle down on knowing your teaching. So
Fantastic.
Ideation is like, to us, we don't charge for ideas, Ashu.
Right.
In Woot Factor, we say ideas are for free.
Right.
Take 10 from me.
Right.
I will not charge you for an idea because you could have one brilliant one and
right.
I could have a brilliant one. I don't know how to put a price tag on it.
Sure.
Right? I want to make it real. I want to make it happen. And tomorrow when it brings you business is when you come back to me and you say, you know what? This is a good guy to talk to. These are good people to talk to because they think about my business.
I mean, the fact that you're here, that means, it establishes the fact that you've been a good person all throughout, right? So
I'm hoping so.
But moving on to the second point, step number 2, which is encoding, right? Or packaging. Okay. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, this is where the team comes into existence. The ideas start from the top and then it kind of trickles down.
Sure.
In smaller organization, encoding is far more supervised because, you have your skin in the game. Everything you're doing is happening for that one product, one service that, startup businesses are putting all their energies into it.
Right.
So it's very, very closely knit.
Sure.
But the minute you go to the larger industries is where this is the stage where I had a fantastic idea, but it didn't get communicated too well. So coming back to it, but a lot of good products have come out to the market. Right. But because they weren't communicated right. In terms of packaged, in terms of whether put it digitally in the right platforms at the right places,
sure.
Or let's put it that way, that they weren't really experientially reaching the customer in the right forms. Right. Those kind of brought the fall down of a campaign, but the campaign was brilliant.
Okay.
Right.
Is that also a function of how you prioritize your customer and how you understand, how well you understand your product?
Well, totally, right? I think both are like 50-50. It's like a seesaw.
Also the competition, right? I mean, I think, how you position.
True. I think you need to understand your competition. I don't think you need to romance your competition too much. Right? That's when you kind of get into a circle of saying, you know what, usne ye kiya, main ye karunga. That's not the right thing for me. As an experiential agency. So our pitches avoid saying, you know what, this industry has been doing this, so let's follow the trend. If you wanted to follow the trend, you won't be asking me for an idea. You are from the industry, you know what's happening in the industry. You were calling me, and the buzzword for the last decade has been disruption.
Right.
Everybody wants to disrupt. They would do a flash mob, they would call it disruption. Right. Then they did point of sale branding, they called it disruption. Right. Then they did promoter-led sampling, they called it disruption.
Right.
This word has been royally used. I'm kind of choosing my words here. But that became the buzzword. And then everybody followed it. Right. You need to kind of understand yourself the best.
Sure.
The best. Maybe the competition you need to be aware of. Understand what they're doing. Fantastic. Don't romanticize them is my suggestion to any startup. Because आप अगर अपने प्रोडक्ट में बिलीव करते हो और वैसे 5 और प्रोडक्ट भी हैं, you will still succeed.
Interesting.
Right? There is an app called Grow who's just come in and he's acquired huge amount of data.
Right.
He was there in the one platform that everybody was consuming today, IPL. Right? And he put, his all his eggs in one basket there, and
Right.
he's actually acquired. I have people within my company who today are trading on the Grow app because they were using a couple of others, and they said, "Nahi yaar, acha lagta hai."
Wonderful.
Maybe I'm not in the trading business, but
Right.
I know live examples like that. So right place, right time, know yourself. Doesn't matter if you're the first in the industry, but if you know where your customer is sitting, what he's consuming, you'll get
Fantastic. Amit, channel selection, very quickly, how important is channel selection? Channel selection is basically location selection. Are you putting up a 50 square feet kiosk, or you're doing a large elaborate this thing? How important is channel selection?
It actually comes out of your understanding of the customer, right?
Or should this be planned in phases?
It definitely should be planned in phases.
Right.
I don't think anybody should go out there and put. See, if you're a matured product, you've been there in the market, then it's absolutely okay if you have a campaign and you bombard it from all sides. But if you're talking startups, you should take baby steps. You should take very, very practical steps. If you do 10 things at one time and then try to measure it, you're going to tend to get lost within the entire Excel sheet. But if you do one thing or two things at one time and keep it under measurable circumstances, you will learn, you will adapt, you will pick these channels better for the future and utilize them. And you know what? Don't refrain from using the same channel again and again.
Right.
Because if you, let's say, used, today we do a lot of activities at essential stores, hypermarkets, supermarkets.
Right.
The customer is ever changing there.
Correct.
The customer there is still evolving. You say, you know what, I went to a certain supermarket, ab wo channel ho gaya.
Right.
India is too large a customer base.
Sure.
Right? And these are all hyper-local channels when it comes to experiential marketing.
Right.
Digitally, when you're doing things, do it consistently.
Right.
One good digital idea and success means you probably got mind space for a week or 10 days in the digital world. It doesn't last beyond that.
Right.
So you need consistency. And that's where the brand has to be passionate about an idea they come up with. And if it is a homegrown idea and it's a fresh idea, everybody will back that idea. It will see multiple faces. Sorry.
No, so I particularly like the the hyperlocal bit that you mentioned, right? And I think while your digital strategy could be very homogeneous and very macro in its appeal and approach, right? Because you have a certain understanding of larger customer, and then you are sort of interacting, engaging with that customer through multiple formats, right? But by doing a last mile hyperlocal activity, which is tuned to the audience for that region, can actually yield you better results, right? So I think that's a very important point that you've highlighted in that process, right? Step number 4, decoding. Amit, what do you think about that?
A lot of people actually don't get into that.
Right.
And that is where you really don't know, because you look at ROI from an angle of sales only. And the minute you land up doing that, you say, if I'm an app, how many downloads did I get? That's my success factor.
Right.
If you are a product, how many conversions did I get? That's my success factor.
Sure.
How many times did we just have a random buy that you went into a mall? It would probably be once in 5 times or once in 3 times. So you generally go into a facility to know what you're going there to consume.
Right.
It has to be hitting you multiple times in various formats, like you said, digitally, experientially, ATL wise, and that's where you start recollecting that brand or that service when the time of need arises. So a lot of it, visibility is underrated. Let me put it that way, right? And I believe when you look at decoding your entire campaign or the initiative that you had taken, you need to decode it on certain parameters and not just one parameter, which is, how much business did I make out of it?
Right.
If it was just that simple, then you would do one campaign to the other and you just keep getting more business, and you would not need a sales team. A sales guy is given a sales target throughout the year. He's not hired and said, "Agle mahine jaake kitna becha."
Right.
He's nurtured. The company gives him their DNA. He goes out there. He talks about the brand. You make him believe. You motivate him. You put in so much of energies into a resource, and marketing is nothing else but another resource for you. right? So you need to use it from that perspective rather than just saying hit or miss, and kind of stay committed to your journey.
Right.
So
Very
that's one reason I love filmmakers, Ashu. More than actors, actresses, I love filmmakers
Right.
and love having interactions with them because they live a film for 3 years
Right.
till the audience consumes.
Right.
And they believe in that product.
Very
Right? They keep refining it. And that is what marketing is.
Amit, last point, which is feedback, right? How important is feedback in the entire process of building a campaign?
I think take it from everybody, right from your employees to your customers, to your partners, to your circle of influence. Take feedback, right?
Right.
But constructively break it down as per your passion.
Sure.
Right? A businessman eventually starts a business out of their passion.
Right.
And that cannot get replicated. But if the customer is not consuming you, he's not reading you, right? Please listen. There, let's not have a hard head and, kind of say it's my way or the highway.
Right.
So my suggestion was, your passion brings out the business.
Right.
Your hunger for getting better is an output of listening as much as it is of the, what you're investing back in your business. And I think practicality is the buzzword in today's day and time. Like I said, be relevant, do things very, very practically. Don't be very, very flamboyant. Right. You can be flamboyant if your business demands it to be like.
And you have the right funding.
And you have the right funding. Well, funding is another ball game, Ashu. People have been getting tons of funding basis ideas, and it is somebody's money that you're putting on the line. You should be more responsible.
Sure.
When you put your own money out there, it's your passion that's driving that. When you're lending money and actually somebody's believing in you, I think you're taking on a heck of a responsibility.
Right.
So please carry that responsibly. I am an investor in a few, and that is why probably the advice also goes out. I would want people to move on with caution rather than just flamboyance.
Super. Amit, it was fantastic you having with us, for a session on experiential marketing and how should brands, early stage companies, mid-sized companies, use experiential as a medium to acquire, clients and customers, and more importantly, leave that impression, right? And in today's scenario where engagement and a large targeting is happening in a digital format, I think experiential will fill that void, right? Where a consumer is going to go on and consume that brand and make that decision of purchase, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's been absolute pleasure to have you, Amit, with us. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I think what you're doing is fantastic. I've always been a very, very big fan of whatever you've done, and there are a bunch of things that we've done together. But thank you so much for taking the time out. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Ashu. It's truly a pleasure to be part of the session. Anything that I could, if I can even impact one thought process, I think I would have done a good job. And I hope people enjoyed listening in. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to dress up and wear a shirt after a long time. It's work from home is kind of limited what we put on, but it's always good to interact with you, Ashu. It's always intelligent conversations. And thank you so much for thinking of me when it came to this.
Thanks, Amit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.